You can still see me, hopefully. I hope everybody had a good day. If you're not, if you're new here, I'm Angie. I am part of the MEA team at Hodges. I'm also the nutrition coach. So I'm super excited to join you guys today and talk about something that I'm passionate about, as well as Gerald and Teresa. So hopefully you'll learn a little bit of something. Hopefully you'll share some things, and we're gonna have a good time. I promise I won't keep you too long. Realize it's already 8 o'clock and a lot of us have to get up early. So without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and get started. So as I said, I'm Angie. If you have not met me, please don't hesitate to shoot a text. I'm in the studio Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 4:45 until later in the afternoon. um, so yeah, I'm excited to have you guys, and feel free to pop any questions you have in the chat. So this is just a little bit about me. I have been at Hodges now since January. I have two girls, Cameron and Aiden. Aiden is my youngest, she's in high school, and Cameron is my oldest, she's a big girl. I am also, in addition to things that I do at Hodges and the things I do outside of Hodges, I do competitive bodybuilding as well. My last show was in November, and that's the picture that you see on the screen. Probably going to compete again here in the next, I don't know, 4, 6 months. Just going to see how things go with my coach, but that is the plan right now. So, stay tuned, and I'll be posting about my journey once I get started, so you guys can follow if you're interested in that. In addition to these other things, I am also a NASM certified personal trainer and obviously a nutrition coach. So these are just a few of the things that I'm passionate about. Feel free, if you are ever in the studio and I'm around, to ask questions. I'm happy to share, just to help you guys in any way I can. All right. So last seminar, we talked about the basics of nutrition coaching, because I was having a lot of people not really understanding how the process works. So I decided to give like a brief overview of that. And then we also, the main portion of the seminar was we talked about how not to sabotage your goals in the summer. Because as you know, summertime is when a lot of people like to let loose. We're traveling, we don't want to be restricted. We want to enjoy ourselves. So we talked about kind of the basics as far as nutrition coaching, and gave you 6 tips on how to enjoy your summer without sabotaging your goals. If you guys have any questions about that, I think we have a good portion of that recording available too. You can always shoot us a text and ask for that. All right. Hold on a second, let me. Everybody is muted. So what we're talking about today, all right. I don't know who that is. Can you mute?
That's Amanda.
Let me do it. Real quick. Okay, I think we're good now. All right. So, what we're talking about today is, you guys answered the question. We asked the question on the poll: what is some of the things that you want us to talk about when it comes to nutrition? So some of the things that you said were how to eat for your goals. What are the effects of eating nutrient-dense foods versus meal replacements? So like protein shakes, things like that. How to work out to build muscle, eating in a deficit, eating with dietary restrictions, how to properly reverse diet, safe use of steroids, and of course, hormones. So the 2 things that we heard like repeatedly in that question box was how to eat for your goals and hormones. We're not going to dive too deep into hormones today. We're going to give you kind of like an overview of how to eat when you're trying to balance, your hormones and be healthy hormonally. So we will eventually get to these other topics, but because we got so many of the same response, we chose to isolate the subject of today's call. So what are we talking about? We are going to talk about how to properly fuel your body for your goals. And we just chose a few. Obviously, your goals can range, but we chose the ones that we felt like were more popular and what people wanted to hear about most. We're going to talk a little bit about best practices for recovering from those things as well. So three things we're going to talk about: how to fuel yourself for building muscle, if you're training for a race or a competition, and then, of course, as I said, hormone health and support. First things first, I want to share as a nutrition coach, as a personal trainer, just as somebody who is a, lifelong student. I'm always wanting to learn and to be better and to give, have the opportunity to share more with you guys. And so one of the things I do frequently is I watch podcasts or I listen to podcasts. And so one of the podcasts I watched recently was Dr. Andrew Huberman. He's somebody that I've been following for a while. I like his podcast. It's very informative. They're super long. So I'm just going to give you like a synopsis of the one that I listened to the other day. But if you, find yourself with some free time on your commute, feel free to give them a listen and let me know what your thoughts are. So the podcast that I watched this week was exercise and eating for your health. And there were some very interesting things. The overarching idea was that, um, we have this, long-term mindset as far as like, reducing your body fat and building muscle. But Dr. Gabrielle Lyons, who was the other person on this podcast, was sharing that it's not necessarily, or there's a different way to think about it. It's not necessarily that you're over fat, but that you are under muscle. And I thought that that was a very kind of poignant thought, because if you really think about it, that is the basis of, your health, right? Is building muscle. As you see here, muscle is an organ of longevity. And I tell people this all the time. I really believe that, fitness, resistance training really is the fountain of youth. So if you are, whether you're bodybuilding or not, or just working out, I hands down believe that, maintaining a healthy lifestyle and keeping up with your fitness routine can definitely add to the longevity. So that was one of the things that they talked about. A couple other things, they dived a little bit into, not necessarily just building muscle, but having healthy muscle. Because there's a difference. Like you can actually have a lot of muscle, but is all of that muscle healthy? There is science that supports that you can have more muscle, but it's not necessarily healthy muscle. And when we talk about like getting in enough protein, dietary protein is not just one thing. It sounds singular, but it's really not. It's a combination of things. We sell BCEAs in the studio, and the reason being is that supplement includes some of the essential amino acids that you need for good health. So we do have some of those in the studio. If you have questions about that, happy to help and answer those as well. The quality of your protein is defined by its amino acid composition. Um, Something that blew my mind, I had no idea. You hear a lot of people talk about, oh, I'm going plant-based. The American diet right now is 70% plant-based. That blew my mind. I really didn't think that it was that high, but it makes sense because, it seems like plant-based diets are really all the rage right now. But that said, it would take 6 cups of quinoa to get the same dietary protein component as a small chicken breast, which is insane to me. I'd much rather have a chicken breast than 6 cups of quinoa. But, that said, obviously you have your own, wishes and desires as far as like how you choose to nourish your body. And I am definitely not, bashing plant-based diets at all. It's just, things that I don't know and I learned, I'm sharing with you. So, all right. A couple of the final pieces that I got from that were the two main ways to stimulate skeletal muscle is obviously resistance training and then making sure you have good dietary protein. Um, and of course, we're all in the business of trying to, like I said, add longevity to your life. Aging does impair the efficiency of your muscle protein synthesis. So you can't avoid aging, but you can help your body and help yourself age more gracefully by staying more healthily. Um, and Dr. Lyon said being sedentary is a disease state. And I thought that this was very impactful. You don't really think about being sedentary as a disease. But technically, I guess it could be. So just, something to think about. But the most important thing I took away from this was, obviously, if you're at Hodges, you have fitness as a regular part of your routine, right? Um, and that is something that you hopefully is a non-negotiable, as Teresa said yesterday, if you were on the rooftop with the Lululemon workout. It should be a non-negotiable. So, set your fitness routine, eating healthily, all these things, set a standard for yourself, not a goal. Because once you set a standard, it's easy to execute, right? Your standard is going to give you the framework to just simply execute on your standard, as opposed to setting a goal and, well, if I don't reach my goal, it's okay. If it's a standard, then you know you're going to do it, right? Because that's just the way it has to be. So I hope that you guys, maybe take an opportunity to listen to that podcast and also share your thoughts, whether you agree with it, disagree with it, always want to know how you guys feel about things and what you take away from it. All right, so back to what we're talking about today. How to fuel your body for your goals and how to prioritize recovery. Now, obviously, like I said, we're just talking about a few goals, and also we're just giving you a few ways. Obviously, there's a million ways to skin a cat, right? But we're just giving you a few tips to do if you are trying to do these things. So this is not the end all be all. It's just, to kind of keep it short and sweet and easy things for you to remember, take away. So if building muscle is your priority, right? What are some things you can do to help yourself in that regard? First things first is consume enough calories. I've heard countless times people tell me in the studio and outside of the studio, I know I'm not eating enough. It's not just about the protein, you need carbs. As much as we like to restrict carbs because we think that's going to help us lose the weight, that's not necessarily true. You need carbohydrates for energy. You ever come to the workout? I don't know how some people do it. They come in and they train fasted. There's no way on earth I could do that. I commend you if you can, but I need all the carbs when I get ready to work out. So that's just me. So how do you determine what you should be eating or how much you should be eating? Obviously, having a coach can help you with that, but you can also make some simple calculations on your own. As a general guideline, it's suggested that you have 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound. And an interesting point from the podcast, um, when you're establishing your protein, your macros, as far as protein goes, she suggested that you come up with a number of in grams for your protein based on your desired weight. So let's just say you currently weigh 200 pounds, but you want to weigh 150. Her suggestion is that you eat 150 grams, not the 200 grams of what you weigh, which was another interesting thing I just thought I would share with you. And second thing, make sure that when you come into the studio, you are challenging yourself and you're challenging your muscles. Your muscles cannot grow if you do not stretch them, if you do not challenge them, if you do not, you know, push them to break down, because if they can't be broken down, then they're not going to be repaired. And that is how you get new muscle tissue, is by the breaking down and the repairing of the tissue. Once the muscle is broken down and it's repaired, it comes back bigger. So that's how we get our muscles to grow, essentially. And that's why you have coaches in the studio, help you push, yourself to where you might not be pushing. So don't be afraid of the weight. We're not going to let you hurt yourself. Um, but also be careful, of course. But definitely make sure that you are implementing progressive overload when you come into the studio. So the whole reason why we do the same program for 4 weeks or for a month is so that you can have that progression in your program. Second part, and this is probably maybe an unpopular opinion, but undoubtedly, and I can speak from personal experience, sleep is, I feel, the most important recovery method. And I know this because, and you probably have experienced this too, if you don't get enough sleep, your workouts suffer, right? You can't give everything you need to give to the workout if you have not slept well or enough. Sleep helps optimize the growth hormones that you need to build the muscles. And that is where the growth happens. That is where the repair happens, is when you're sleeping. So make sure that you're getting good sleep, after you come into the gym and hit those weights hard. It's the only way. And then some best practices as far as, how to recover, what to do after you've come in and you've done all those things to try to build your muscle is you can also supplement. Now, supplements are not a requirement. That can be helpful. I spoke a little bit about BCAAs. Also, another thing is creatine. This has been, I don't want to say controversial, but there's some confusion about whether or not creatine is good. How much should you be taking, all those things. Typically, I would suggest 3 to 5 grams a day, but obviously it's going to depend on you and what your goals are. But that would be what I would say is like a baseline. And you can always start, with a low dosage and work your way up as well. My favorite recovery methods that I'm doing all of the time, pre and post workout, foam rolling. And then most recently, I've been a lot more diligent about getting in contrast therapy. Contrast therapy is just basically hot and cold therapy. So it could be hot sauna, dry sauna, it could be cold plunging or ice baths. It's uncomfortable, but it really can help your body recover. Again, these things are not requirements, but it can help you just be better overall when you're trying to put on muscle tissue. And then moving on, training for a race. So I know Gerald is on here and I'm not the Iron Man, so I hope that he is going to chime in here. But if you happen to be training for a competition, some of the things that you want to make sure that you're doing is, as I said earlier, you need carbs. Prioritizing carbs, especially if you're going on a long run or a long bike ride, you're going to need that energy to get you through that. Gerald, did you have something you want to say? I know you're on the bike, or you were on the bike.
I was on the bike. I'm not in.
Oh, okay, good.
But yeah, I can definitely chime in and share some more information on this. So, I don't want you guys to think that, because I think it's very common for us to assume that carbs is like something that you only need when you're doing like crazy amounts of workout or like, but like Angie said earlier, it's carbs are a source of energy that your body uses to perform in a workout. So if you don't have any source of energy to perform, you're never going to be able to push the weight that you want to do and have the workouts you want to have. So carb loading specifically for races, or say if you're doing like a Spartan race, or even just like maybe you come to Hodges, or maybe you do the morning run at our track or on the track, and then you go do another workout at Hodges that day. You know that you're going to be burning a lot of calories and you need that carb source. And it's important to give your body those carbs in it. You want to also consider that your body needs time to digest them. So it's not about just shoving like a muffin down your throat right before you walk in the gym, but giving yourself carb sources that are slow digesting as well, that can really help, especially if you're doing like a longer workout.
Joe, can
That's
you speak really
something.
quickly about how you fueled yourself for your Ironman?
Oh my God, that was is a whole that's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
Because you're working out for like 5.5 hours straight nonstop. But that it took 2 days of eating carbs prior to the race to give myself enough
Sure.
um, glycogen storage to top me off for the race. And then during the workout, I burned through all of that, but I also had to continue to supply myself with carbs throughout. So I was doing things like, well, I have right now, I have like a liquid carb and a lot of sodium to kind of fuel me through the workouts. And like most of you guys know, these types of gels that people drink or eat during their races, this is what I typically do. Um, but that's a different ballgame. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think we really go down that rabbit hole, but
Yeah, no, no, no. I
you
just
guys
wanted
an
you
idea
to touch on.
that yeah, they can go. There's different routes with it for sure.
That's a good segue into what we're going to talk about next is hydration and electrolyte balance. We touched on this in a previous seminar, is the importance of making sure that you're properly hydrating. It's not just about water, it's about sodium, it's about potassium. I recently had a client who she went on vacation, came back from vacation and went into the hospital almost immediately because while she was away, she had sweat so much that she had basically depleted her body of magnesium and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. So it just goes to show you when you're not properly hydrated, and your body is out of balance, electrolyte wise, it can really cause problems. Um, so just something to think about, when you're coming to the gym, maybe, if you know that some of you guys like to do 2 workouts a day. So just imagine how much sodium and all of that you're losing. You have to make sure that you're putting those things back in your body. And then lastly, endurance training, even if it's just a run, or if it's a bike ride, it takes just as much mental energy as it does physical energy to get through things sometimes. And that could even be for a Hodges workout. But especially when you're doing any kind of endurance training, you really have to, because at some point your body is going to be like, I can't do this anymore. And you have to have that mental capacity to push more, right? Another thing you can do is, maybe practice meditation or, have an audiobook that you can listen to so that your mind is not on, oh, I want to quit. You can allow your body to just continue to perform while you focus on something else. And then again, some best practices for, if you're training for a run or a race, something like that. Ice baths and sauna, as I mentioned, are good for that as well. And then, of course, anytime you've done like a strenuous activity, that your body's not used to, the muscles are not used to, you're going to need to make sure that they stay um, nimble and like flexible. And so stretching is great, yoga is great. Just make sure that you are keeping all of those things, kind of fluid and they don't tighten up on you, because that can be extremely painful. Also, something that is also really helpful for me is getting tissue work done. I just had a body work appointment on Sunday. I was very much overdue. But just that's where you have, the tissues and stuff most like manipulated so that, you can release the tight muscles and things like that and just have better mobility. Compression therapy is also good. I know some of you have probably seen those like leg sleeves that people put on and it just contracts and expands, and it just helps with, blood flow, circulation, and all those kinds of things that help to keep the tissues healthy as well. One of the things that Gerald also shared with me when I was talking to him about, post race is that you can have, and this can be with like a heavy workout as well, but it's very easy to come out of a workout and you want to just eat, like you want to eat something crazy, but that's the last thing you should be doing. You should be feeding your body as much as possible, nutrient dense whole foods. So while it would sound great, I'm sure, to go leave a workout and go have a nice juicy burger or, a slice of pizza, that's not going to be helpful for you when it comes to, putting on the tissue and, healthy tissue, as we discussed, because you can put on muscle, and it can be healthy muscle or it cannot be healthy muscle, right? So there's that. And moving on to the next thing. Lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about hormone health. Now, I am going to be the first to tell you this is not my area. It is something that I am actively pursuing, is to be more well versed in this. I'm currently going through a strength and conditioning certification, but once I'm done with my strength and conditioning cert, I am moving on to hormones. Because there's so many women in Hodges who are moms, or they just had a baby, or they're reaching those perimenopausal states or postmenopausal states. And so it's very important to understand the changes that our bodies are going through as we go through these different stages in life. So Teresa was so generous to put together these 5 pieces of advice about how to properly feel your body and care for your body as you're going through these hormonal fluctuations. One way is to align your workouts with your menstrual cycle phases. And I'm not going to go through all of these, but just know that there are different things you can do during different phases of your cycle that will help you um, just, speak to your body and treat your body, as healthy as possible while you can still reach your goals. So making sure that you're prioritizing exercise during certain times of the day or certain times of your phases. Um, Focusing on listening to your body too. If you're not feeling it, if you're in a lot of pain, it's going to be very hard for you to come into the gym and give it 100%. And also you don't have to come into the gym if you're, having a tough time. You can just focus on, just giving your body some kind of movement, yoga, stretching, some walking, just something to keep up with, your regular fitness routine. Um, you just have to listen to your body, trust your body, and don't be pressured, to come into the gym and just overdo it when your body might need rest. Managing your cortisol levels. This is something that I really can't stress enough, is to just, try to manage your stress as best as possible. It is so detrimental if you have one, poor sleep, but if you are so stressed out that your cortisol levels are always raised, it's going to be very hard for your body to improve and to grow when it's in a constant fight or flight state. Um, I'll share another story. I have a client who actually today she's going to have a hip replacement, and she had been, every day she's weighing herself every day, which I don't recommend, but she was doing it, and she's noticing that, the scale's down quarter pound, half a pound every day. She was doing great. Her goal was to get to under 180, and she was like in the 170s, like leading up into, the last week. And then she noticed um probably a few days ago that the scale started going up. And as soon as she told me that, I said immediately, it's your cortisol, because you're getting ready for this major surgery. You have this laundry list of things that you have to do before you have the surgery. It's got to be that, and she admittedly was not getting enough water. So, I'm sure that has something to do with it too. But it's like once your cortisol levels are spiked, until you get that back regulated, your body is just going to be kind of out of whack. Um, so she was super grateful and helpful that, I reminded her of that so that she was not stressing going into the surgery, and that she knew, that it was going to be a while even after the surgery until her body had, regulated itself again as far as her cortisol. So yeah, just, make sure that you're paying attention to that. If you feel yourself, getting stressed out, do some meditating, do some deep breathing exercises, take a walk around the block. A few weeks ago, a coworker of mine was having a tough time. And I was like, you know what? Let's get up. We're going to take a walk around. We took a walk around the complex, and it was helpful. We're out in the sunlight. They say, vitamin D is it's great medicine, especially if you're feeling down. So just, listen to yourself, take care of yourself, and try to keep your stress levels down as much as possible. Supporting your adrenals. It's very easy to want to come to the gym, 5, 6, even 7 days a week, but that is counterproductive to you getting to your goals. As desirable and as tempting as it might be, it's really not going to help you. just as much as your body needs that hard work, your body also needs to rest. Because if you don't give your body rest, you're going to stress out your internal systems. And so you want to make sure that you are keeping those things in balance. Because once they're out of balance, it's very difficult, especially if you're not, well versed in these things, to balance them out without intervention. There are some things that you can incorporate day to day to help kind of keep those more in balance. I personally drink mushroom coffee every day. It has things like adaptogens in it, basically mushrooms, not those kind of mushrooms, but plant-based mushrooms that are good for um, just for your mental health, for overall wellness. So if it's something that you're interested in, I'm happy to answer questions about that as well, or you can do your own research also. Number four, and obviously we talk about this a lot, is prioritizing your nutrition. Yes, that time of the month is very easy. I just want to eat French fries and chocolate and all of the things that are probably not going to be helpful for me when my hormones are fluctuating. It's very tempting, but as much as you can, and I'm not saying deprive yourself. I do not believe in that. If you were at the last nutrition seminar, you know that I believe in, you know, allowing yourself to have healthy indulgences, and just keep it manageable, right? But as much as possible, I'm going to go back to this again. Nutrient dense whole foods will win every time. Um, because it's easy, because you don't have to worry about, well, what is in this? You know what it is. It comes from the earth or it comes from an animal. It's much more healthy for you than anything processed you can find. So that's another way that you can help manage, and help your body be in its most optimal state while your hormones are fluctuating. And then, as I said again, listening to your body, pay attention to, your stress. Um, when you know that you're stressed, I'm sure there's certain things that you'll see in yourself. You might be moody or you might crave something in particular. Um, you might be snappy. There's ways to know when your body is trying to talk to you and letting you know that it's stressed. So, above all, listen to that, take a step back, and just reprioritize yourself. And don't try to do everything all at once. Pick, as I say, pick one or two things to focus on and and just do that. And obviously, the moodiness, the cravings, all those things, they will eventually go away. Um, so I think that's it. Yeah. So that was all for the seminar. At this time, we are going to open up the floor for questions. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. I have a few people in the waiting room. I'm going to admit them really quickly. Um, so yeah, thank you guys for listening. I hope that you found this helpful. I'm gonna pop into the chat real quick just to see what kinds of questions you have.
I think a common question a lot of people have is what are ways that they can get in more protein throughout the day? Because for a
Yeah,
lot of people, they're so busy
yeah,
and they know that it's important to get protein in, but it's
yeah.
just like, oh, super hard. What are suggestions you have for that?
So one of my tricks also too, is I first thing I do when I come to the studio is I drink bone broth. The bone broth and I looked at labels, because I wanted to make sure I was getting a good amount. And, some of them taste really nasty, but I happened to find one at Wegmans. It's Wegmans brand, chicken bone broth. And I want to say it has like 9 grams of protein per serving. So that's really easy, to just heat up and sip on the way to the studio. It's liquid, but it's also going to give you some protein. So while, it's not like, some eggs or, a protein shake or whatever, it is a source of protein. I mean, it also has immune boosting properties in it. Um, so yeah, that's one of the ways you can do it. Obviously, supplementing with protein shakes, you can do that as well. And there are some pretty good like protein-based snacks on the market. I don't eat a lot of them just because I try to limit, some of them have artificial sweeteners in them, so I try to limit that for myself. But there are some tasty ones on the market that you can have, whether it's like a muffin or, some kind of protein bar. Those things are totally fine. And I get like nobody wants to come to the gym and try to work out and push themselves on a full stomach. I totally understand that. It could be, a small yogurt, a banana, to help, keep you from cramping, things like that. Don't overcomplicate it, just find things that you enjoy and have them in small portions before you work out. Uh, let's see. Carbs in the morning before work. Okay, got that. I'm not a breakfast person or a smoothie person. I'm a human being. That's funny. I can barely get in 1,200 calories. How to get 2,700 that is recommended. Okay, this is a good question. 12, it really depends on how much day we're talking, right? If you get up at 4 in the morning to come in for a 5 a.m. workout and you're going to be up until what, 8, 9 o'clock at night, you have a huge window where you can eat. If you're prone to not eating, your metabolism has adapted to basically not processing a lot of food. So the best suggestion I can give you is to just slowly start increasing. Maybe you're not increasing the size of the meal, but you're having more meals, but smaller meals, because you can trick your body into, burning more if you feed it more. Um, that's typically what I would suggest. Um, just, ease your way into it. Obviously you're not going to go from 1,200 calories to 2,700. That's not healthy, first of all, and it's really not reasonable. So I would say, maybe try to add 100 to 200 calories every week and just work your way up from there. What else? Fellow vegetarians out there that can recommend sources of protein outside of protein shakes. So are you asking about vegetarian or vegan? Because there's a difference. Vegan is, obviously nothing animal based. But if you're speaking about vegan specifically, there are some good things on the market I know for this as well. I know, some people like seitan or they like lupini is another one. Um, what else? Obviously, tofu is a big one. Jackfruit, I believe some people use as well. So there's things out there if you're adventurous enough to try them. It's very difficult, I think, if you're not open-minded to be able to get, enough protein in if you are focused on a more plant-based diet. How do you track the calories for fruits and vegetables? So, my suggestion, and I don't know if you're using MyFitnessPal, but if you are using MyFitnessPal, and it might work for the other tracking devices as well. But specifically in MyFitnessPal, let's just say you're eating strawberries. If you type in the search bar strawberries and you put in USDA, it will give you very accurate macro details or nutrition info for that. So the best way is to, figure out how much it is. So if you don't have a food scale, obviously you're not going to know grams, ounces, things like that. But you can just use, a measuring cup, half a cup of berries and just do it like that. And you can actually put in when you're entering it into the app, you can change the serving type. So you can change it to cup or you can change it to grams. You can change it to whatever you're using. And a lot of times, if there's something in there that it has a serving size, a lot of times you'll see the actual serving size populated in there as well. But I would suggest adding a food scale. Is that it? Anybody else have any other questions? You can always shoot a text to or ask me, like I said, when you're in the studio. I'm always happy to help in any way I can. So if that's it, Gerald, Teresa, do you guys have anything to add?
If y'all struggle with getting in enough food or meal prepping, y'all should also check out Maggie Meals. If you guys go on our Instagram bio and click the link, you get $25 off of every order, like for your first three orders. So if you guys want to take advantage of that, Teresa and I love Mighty Meals because it's just so easy because it takes the thinking out of the equation. You know
Yeah.
exactly how many calories you're getting in, how much protein you're getting in. I would suggest trying that, maybe giving it a shot and letting me know how you like it.
Yeah, I second that. If you are someone who struggles to eat your meals regularly and it's because you don't have your meal prep or you don't know what to eat, especially for the women on this call, even men, like it is super important for your hormones, that you are eating on a consistent and regular basis every single day. Especially if you have like goals to gain strength or lose fat or whatever it is, your nutrition is the utmost important part. So if you struggle with your nutrition, then find a solution for it, whether it's you cooking and meal prepping or finding a service that can do it for you. Uh,
Marisha was asking, they offer something other than lunch/dinner.
yeah, I'm pretty sure they have breakfast options, if I remember correctly, right, Gerald?
Yeah, I
Yes.
believe. And honestly, sometimes I eat Mighty Meals for breakfast if I'm really in a rush.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
do what you got.
also, thank you for the presentation, Angie. That was
Yeah, my
awesome. Thank you
pleasure.
so much.
Thank you guys, and I hope you have a good evening.